The Iran ceasefire is on life support. I'm James Parker, Newstalk 820 93.3 FM, WBAP. And that is a paraphrase from a recent statement from Donald Trump, where he doesn't seem to be too enthusiastic about how the ceasefire is going thus far. So, okay, all right. Lesson learned here. If Donald Trump is now questioning the efficacy of the ceasefire, you got to think that this is not going to last much longer. Like he's already planning for it to be over. Agreed. So he has a problem where he's been saying there's a ceasefire, but bullets keep flying. You know, the fire hasn't ceased. And today there was another cargo ship that we believe was either flagged to the United States or had United States interest on it that was attacked. It wasn't sunk. It's going to be fine. But as long as attacks are happening on any sort of level, we have problems. As long as the international community has any excuse to be skittish about going through that little narrow waterway, the ceasefire is going to be a problem for international trade. Now, one of the reasons I think Donald Trump's about done with his ceasefire is because he got the proposal back from Iran and he pretty much wadded it up and threw it away. But he did an interview yesterday with Cheryl Atkinson. And I think this is important because there's not a whole lot of interviews that this guy does that are going to be with someone who is both this journalistically grounded and also not completely antithetical to Trump. She doesn't hate him or think he's literally Hitler. She's not a sycophant. This isn't a Fox News guy that's going to go out and just try and make him look as good as possible. It's not a CNN guy that's going to go out and make him look as bad as possible. It's a somewhat sympathetic journalist who's going to ask some real hard questions, starting with, what is the situation now with Iran?
On Iran, would you say the war is over? Is it paused? Or is it very much active?
Well, they're militarily defeated. In their own minds, maybe they don't know that, but I think they do because I deal with them. And we cannot ever let Iran have a nuclear weapon, but they are militarily defeated. They have no navy, they have no air force, they have no anti-aircraft weaponry, they have no radar, they have no leaders. Their leaders are gone. The first set, the A team is gone, the B team is gone, and part of the C team is gone. But I think we're dealing with people that have a certain power. It's very interesting because, you know, they make a deal and then they break it, then they make a deal, they break it. It's a difficult group. But from a military standpoint, I mean, if we left today, it would take them 20 years to rebuild.
So whatever happens in the next week, month, year, Donald Trump, to his grave for the rest of his life, is going to say Iran is a success story. Okay, well, we got that. The problem is the people that we're trusting to criticize him are, no matter what happens in the next week, month, or year, is going to say it was a huge, embarrassing failure. It really stinks how politicized and polarized all this is and how hard it is to get someone without a dog in the hunt to go out and actually evaluate some of these things. But one of the big sticking points is the uranium. If he does get the uranium, anyone who says after this that it was a failure is going to look like sour grapes. Now, I doubt he's going to get the uranium because if you're Iran, why would you give over the uranium? And you could just wait it out forever. Who cares if they knock out the electricity, if they blockade the strait, if they kill your oil industry? As long as you're in power, that's all that matters. So this little 30 seconds here on the uranium situation is what I want you to remember too.
Or if we've not yet gotten the nuclear materials, the enriched uranium from them.
Well, we'll get that at some point, whatever we want. We have it surveilled. You know, I did a thing called Space Force, and they are watching that if somebody walked in, they can tell you his name, his address, the number of his badge. No, we have that very well surveilled. If anybody got near the place, we will know about it, and we'll blow them up. We'll blow them up.
So that implies that we know that they have uranium and we know where it's at and we're keeping an eye on it. If all that's true, that almost makes it a little more concerning because if this guy decides that, well, we're going to go get the uranium, we're going to put boots on the ground, he has a target to go put boots on the ground for. If he didn't know where they were at, it'd be almost impossible to put boots on the ground because where would we even put the boots? So if we know where they're at and it sounds like they're in a singular location, are we going to do another Maduro raid where everyone's minding their own business and then you're looking over the horizon, you're like, what is that? Is that helicopters? Is that, oh, damn it, it's the Americans again. I don't even bother running. We're all just going to blow up anyway. So are we going to do another one of those? If he knows where the uranium is at and we've got eyeballs on it, I think that possibility just became not probable, but possible. Now, let me do a kind of awkward pivot here because I want this to be the conversation you and I have in the next segment that's just going to start here. Cheryl Atkinson asked him about some other things that are, more oriented towards statecraft and foreign policy. She asked about voter fraud and the 2020 election and redistricting. She asked about is Cuba up next. She talked about the salary caps for people in these governmental organizations like the Tennessee Valley Authority, yada, yada, yada. They covered a lot of good ground. But I couldn't stop thinking about this one little clip here where Cheryl Atkinson had asked him about his investigation into the NFL. Now, the investigation into the NFL, I'm kind of partial to the complaint that if you're a Cowboys fan and you want to watch every game this season, you have to get 6 different streaming subscriptions. You have to have a Netflix, you have to have the Amazon, you have to have a Prime, you have to have a Peacock. Prime, yeah, Amazon Prime, Peacock, Paramount. There's 5. I think there was another one too. Now that's a pain in the butt, and I wish it was easy, and I wish it was like when I was a kid, I could just turn it on and it would just be on my TV for free. But do I think this requires government intervention? Oh, hell no. Look, if the NFL gets, too clever or too greedy with their platform usage, it will cost them views and they will change accordingly. And if all the people who watch their games, or enough of them, are willing to jump through all the hoops and get all the subscriptions to watch their precious football, well, then good for the NFL for figuring out how to make more money out of it. But listen, let's talk about this next. I want you to hear this next 45 seconds and then tell me where you stand on this. 800-288-9227.
Your Justice Department is investigating the NFL for moving a lot of viewers from free broadcast television into more expensive pay programming like Amazon Prime, Netflix, Peacock, and YouTube, where the NFL makes more money. Do you think this is price gouging on America's favorite sport? Should the government do anything about it?
It's tough. You got people that love football. They're great people. They don't make enough money to go and pay this. It's tough. And they could be killing the golden goose. I mean, they have that stupid kickoff thing that you can't watch. It's unwatchable. I hate the games where they have the new phony kickoff. I don't think it's any safer. I hope college football doesn't do that. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I'm not a
You're not a football. You are not
viewer.
a football fan. These people know what I'm talking about.
All right, keep your government out of my NFL. We've complained about the NFL being too politicized here in the last 10, 15 years. Thank you, Colin Kaepernick. But you want to see the NFL really politicized? Have the government get involved, not just tangentially, but in court. All right, I'll explain my big problem with the Trump investigation into the NFL using too many streaming platforms next on The James Show. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker on News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. Hey, homeowners, we had another round of bad weather this last week, and if you have any doubts about your roof, you need to trust my friends at Blue Ribbon Roofing. James Parker here for Blue Ribbon Roofing. Don't just trust the handsome guy on the radio. Go to blueribbondfw.com, scroll down a little bit. There's a little section that says what our clients are saying, and it just rotates through the latest Google reviews. The last one I'm looking at here, a 5-star review from some guy named Jeff. We received great service and a beautiful new roof in 2 days. Wonderful company. Shelly said we had a great experience with this company. We went with Blue Ribbon because they made the process easy to understand. We are incredibly pleased with the results. Highly recommended. So blueribbondfw.com. Go there, check it out. Don't just listen to me. See what your neighbors are saying. And then another thing you don't have to worry about is if they come out and check out your roof, it doesn't cost you anything. If they find some problems, we can talk about what we could do to fix it and how we're going to pay for that. And they'll also help you with that stubborn pain in the neck insurance company. So when it's time to get your roof at least checked out, if not fixed, go to blueribbondfw.com. So this ceasefire is about to fall apart, it looks like. I'm James Parker, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Your home for Markley, Van Camp, and Robbins. And look, I heard him talking about the maybe suspending the federal gas tax because, you know, the price at the pump's gone up just a little bit. My next guest is an economist, Steve Beeman from Elevator Club. And, I've usually 99% of the time someone says, do you want a tax to be lower? I will say yes. And while I do want federal gas taxes to be lower, I don't like the sort of band-aid nature of this. And like the problem isn't that the gas taxes are too high. The problem is that the inputs are too high from geopolitical turmoil. Steve, your thoughts? Well, I think the level of burden of the tax is staying the same. So if it's an onerous burden now, let's just permanently lower the tax. Oh, so it's not like 18 cents a gallon. It's like 18% a gallon. Yeah, okay. Well, Beeman, we have high gas prices for a couple months now, and the stock market is at all-time highs. It doesn't seem to be too much of a drag. Well, when we see the prices go down, does that mean the stock market has room to just add more and more to its records? Well, if we don't get Iran back online and the oil starts to dry up from the world markets, what's to keep the price from going significantly higher? So, if we don't have it resolved pretty soon, is there a chance that Trump pulls up stakes and just leaves the theater without getting the uranium? Well, Steve Beeman, you're an economist. Do you know more about this new Fed chair that we're expecting, Warsh? Because Jerome Powell's term is up, what, at the end of the month? And I don't really know a whole lot about this new guy. Whatever happened to the old qualitative easing? Are they doing that again? Yeah, I don't remember the whole cycle of quantitative tightening. I don't think that ever happened. So then, what do they just have a bunch of assets on their balance sheet still from the last crisis? You know, you got me thinking, Steve. We just took a what was it, a 10% stake in Intel? Does that count as on the Fed's balance sheet, or is that ownership held by another entity? How does that work? All right, good stuff. Well, Steve Beeman is a good chat. If you need more of his work, stevebeeman.com. Anything else I can promote for you, sir? What's our DEF CON score right now? All right, so Beeman Intelligence Group. Thank you very much, Steve Beeman, y'all. Coming up next on the James Show, we'll get some of the media reaction to the Iran situation. It's not looking too good. And also, I am gathering reaction to the investigation into the NFL. I'll be doing that later in the show. But if you have some hot opinions on investigating whether or not the NFL is gouging you with too many platforms, I would love to hear from you as well. You can send me an email, james@wbap.com. I'll gather some of those up, and we're making a segment out of that later in the show. All right, more Iran updates and economy talk coming up. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Let's talk about what is going to make Iran so hard to surrender. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 93.3 FM WBAP. We all have to try and do this job of getting out of our bubble and realizing what sounds rational and logical to us isn't the same thing that sounds rational and logical to all people at all times. Now, Trump is going to go out there and say Iran is defeated. He had an interview with Cheryl Atkinson yesterday that kind of encapsulated what he's going to say tomorrow, a week from now, a month from now, a year from now. Whatever happens, it's going to be a win. And it's not going to be a win. It's going to be the biggest, greatest win. I know it, you know it. Everybody knows it. Believe me. It'll be one of those. His critics are going to say the opposite. It was a huge, embarrassing failure. He proved that he's incompetent. He doesn't know what he's doing. He's a laughingstock, blah, blah, blah. The truth is going to be somewhere in the middle. But just to review real quick.
On Iran, would you say the war is over? Is it paused? Or is it very much active?
Well, they're militarily defeated. In their own minds, maybe they don't know that, but I think they do because I deal with them. And we cannot ever let Iran have a nuclear weapon. But they are militarily defeated. They have no Navy. They have no Air Force. They have no anti-aircraft weapon.
Now, all these things are true, but the ultimate goal is getting the uranium. If we don't get the uranium, he can't declare a victory without someone putting an asterisk next to it, even his supporters. So I want to go to this other clip. This was from the Young Americans Foundation. The guy speaking in this clip is the president of UT Austin. I've never heard this guy before. His name's Carlos Carvalho. I don't know. What is that? Portuguese or something? But in this, he is being asked by a young lady at the Young American Foundation's convention about the moral busybodies, about the just relentless stream of illogical pushback from the left and what motivates them to do so. And he kind of paraphrases a couple things you've heard before, like the worst torment you can get, the worst tyranny is from the people who do it from their own conscience. Here, I'll let him say it because I think this applies here. He's talking about moral busybodies here in America. He's talking about the leftists, the ones who wanted to make you wear a mask and shut down your schools and shut down everything for COVID, the one who is hyperventilating about the slightest of microaggressions around here. Anyway, I'll let him talk.
I do think that communists and socialists keep trying to implement these systems into countries even when they keep failing time and time again. Is it just because they want power or they're actually seeking that perfect utopia or what?
C.S. Lewis says that it might actually be better to live under greedy robber barons than it is perpetual moral busybodies. He goes, the robber baron, the person that is motivated by greed or a lust for power, they may at some point have that desire satiated. He goes, but the person that torments you for your own good will do so without end because they do it with the approval of their own conscience. When I read Gramsci, when I read Herbert Marcuse, when I read Foucault, when I read Simone de Beauvoir, there seems to be a common trend, a disdain for God because God represents a power and authority outside of themselves, a disdain for objective reality because God makes objective reality possible. And then there's no objective morality. So if you're rebelling against reality itself and your goal is to be your own God, you can come up with 1,000 different ways to justify whatever you're doing, to include what you're doing to other people. And if they're the ones standing in the way of this great utopia that we're going to create because they haven't fully embraced the ideas the way they should, well then we'll be happy to re-educate them or imprison them or enslave them or kill them because ultimately they're the ones standing in the way of utopia.
Oh, see? So the cool part about that is a question about socialist / communist. The answer applies 100% to the Islamist theocrats that are running Iran right now. They're not listening to you. They don't believe in your God. They believe in their vision of the divine. And so that's the one thing they have in common against you. That's why you're seeing all these people out there, the gays for Palestine. It's like, are you sure about that? But they have one commonality against you. They hate your religion. They know that's the underpinning of your ideology and your worldview. and they seek to diminish it at every turn, even if they have to side with people who would throw them off of buildings for their sexual orientation. I just thought that was wild. I thought you'd like that. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. Coming up next, updates on the Persian Gulf, Straits of Hormuz, and situation with Iran. Colonel Wes Martin joins us on News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. All right, bullets are still flying, so I guess this ceasefire is not going to last very long. I'm James Parker. It's the James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Joining us again, Colonel Wes Martin. Thank you for coming back on the James Show, Colonel Wes. And we had a cargo ship that was shot at by some Iranian actors, we assume, in the Straits of Hormuz. This doesn't sound very much like a ceasefire, Wes. You know, this all sounds like not just a continuation of hostilities. It sounds almost like an escalation. I feel like we had a few days there where this wasn't happening. So, what are we expecting out of this meeting with China this week? Well, let's talk about the effect of the blockade on Hormuz. People like to focus on oil, but that's not the only thing that comes in and out of there. We're not feeling a whole lot of that economic shock, but who is? All right, Colonel Wes Martin, we heard from Donald Trump that he got the report back or the offer back from Iran, and he just ripped it up before he even finished reading it. I don't think they're taking this very serious. I feel like they're just stalling for time. They're restocking. They have no damn intention of ever signing any ceasefire or giving up their uranium. Am I too cynical? Senator Mark Kelly from Arizona says we're running low on munitions. That seems unlikely, but I have zero veteran experience. How does that bounce off of you, Wes? Do we have a cheap? Sorry, I was going to say, what's the cheaper way to shoot down drones? And no relation, by the way. I'm James Parker. He's Quanah Parker. All right. I was just going to say we're out of time. Colonel Wes Martin, anything I can promote for you before we get out of here? Oh, look forward to it. Thank you. Give me some nice homework there. Colonel Wes Martin, your veteran expertise, much appreciated, sir. All right. So this summer, Regal brings back the Summer Movie Express. June 1st through August 13th, you can enjoy 2 PG-rated movies every Monday through Thursday at 11 a.m. for just $1. Kiddos looking for something to do this summer? Plus, you get $3 off a snack pack or Dippin' Dots. It's the Summer Movie Express at Regal. Family fun for less. Okay, coming up next on The James Show, we had a bunch of shootings at parties. And the problem, I don't think, is the guns. I don't think it's teenagers. I don't think it's after-hours clubs. 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker on Newstalk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Do we have a problem with after hours clubs? I don't think so. It's the James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. There seems to be a reluctance for some people to admit where the real problem starts when it doesn't fit their narrative or when they think it might be something that could be used as a political football by their perceived political opponents. But there's been a rash of incidences like this, and it's not even necessarily abnormal. In fact, one of the problems I have with this storyline is how normal we treat it. And when I say we, I mean most of the media and our neighbors and other politicians and whatnot treat it. Stories like this, stories where your neighbors are dying in front of your face. I mean, I know we weren't at the after hours party, but look, it happened again. There was, what was that, last weekend, the Sunday Fun Day up in Oklahoma where like 12 people got shot, and they're like, oh, some teens were out of control. Oh, really? They were all teens? I don't think they were all teens. And then there was another shooting at some big party with a bunch of teenagers in Everman. And oh, look, we have more teen violence. Oh, really? Because I don't think that's all teens that are having this problem. I think it's just one certain subset of people who, most of them are teens, but they're not even all teens. They all are something else. Well, we have another story. This is from WFAA, and this just happened technically yesterday. It happened at 5:45 in the morning on Sunday. But the angle on this is, whoa, we've got to do something about them after-hours clubs. No, it's not the fact that they're after-hours clubs that has all of these storylines in common. They're not going to tell you the race of the people involved in this story, but it's your black neighbors. And I'm tired of seeing them suffer and the media cover for the people that are causing suffering to our black neighbors and then acting like you're a bad person for bringing it up. Here we go, WFAA.
Police are looking for the gunman they say shot and killed a security guard in Fort Worth.
As we hear from friends and family who are now pushing for permanent change. Let's get out to Chris Sadeghi this morning. This all happened early Sunday in the city's southeast side. And Chris, you're live from Fort Worth with us this morning. But with the message from his loved ones, police are still investigating here.
Yes, Dia, the death of this security guard and beloved community member has his friends and families not only mourning, but also urging the city to take a hard look at the after-hours business where he was working security. Police say that Dominique Coleman was working security at Club New Start and crossed the street to speak with someone. At that point, some kind of confrontation began, and police say someone began shooting, hitting Coleman and a woman. The woman will survive, but Coleman died on the scene. The shooter has not been found. This all happened at 5:45 in the morning Sunday at the club that stays open after hours, and friends of Coleman say the community wants the city to help them shut down the club because it brings unwanted people and unwanted activity into the area in those overnight hours. And community members we spoke with say they plan on protesting Club New Start. We did reach out to the club for comment. So far, we have not heard back.
You know, black people are shooting black people on an alarming rate, and alarming by it's much higher than the proportion of other races, including my race. And I'm not concerned about this because I want to disparage black people. I'm concerned about this because I'm concerned about the black people that are dying. I'm concerned about my neighbors that are getting shot, and I don't care if they're black or white or Hispanic. It's a problem. I want to try and minimize it. And the first thing we have to do if we want to minimize it is admit where the problem is. The problem is not with the after-hours clubs. What is with you people? You're getting shot at by your neighbors. It's like, boy, we got to do something about these clubs. It ain't the clubs. Because it's happening whether or not they're in an after-hours club. It happens at a regular club before it's after hours. It happens in fast food restaurants. It happens in the parking lot of Walmart. It happens at the Sunday Fun Day at the lake in Oklahoma. It happened in Everman. Here's another story from, what was this, a day ago? WFAA.
3 teens are recovering this morning after they were shot at a party in Everman. Police say it happened Saturday night in the parking lot of an event venue on Everman Parkway. Police say there were about 100 kids between the ages of 14 and 17 at the party. An argument broke out, they say, and that led to gunfire. Police say several suspects ran from the scene where police managed to recover several guns, but they still need witnesses to come forward to help with the case. So far, no arrests have been made.
Let's have an uncomfortable conversation. What color were those people? Why is it not a concern of you when black people are dying? Only if it makes white people look bad, then race matters. Because I remember y'all were so concerned about the suffering of black people that y'all tormented and tracked down 3 guys who made what could be perceived as a Nazi salute at a Stars game 4 months prior. That's how concerned you are about the suffering of black people if it makes white people look bad. But when they're actually getting shot by other black people, we don't even mention race. So, jeepers, we got to do something about after-hours clubs. Oh, jeepers, we got to do something about the Sunday fun day. Or maybe we should put in a metal detector at schools. It's not the school's fault. It's not the geographic location's fault. It's not even black people's fault. We're talking about a small subset within the black community. Because the black people that live in the colony aren't doing this. The black people that go out and they're raised by their biological mother and father and they get a college degree and they get married and they have their kids in wedlock and they have a wife and 3 kids and they live in some foo-foo HOA governed suburb. They're not the problem. But no, I don't understand the hesitance to have this conversation. Well, are we hesitant to save lives? Are we hesitant to get to the actual bottom of this so it stops? You can put all the after-hours clubs out of business tonight. The problem is going to persist because the tumor is not the disease. The tumor is the symptom of the disease. What does this all boil down to? It's not a race thing. It's not even a socioeconomic thing. It's a culture thing. And it really, the statistic you can look at that is the most defining characteristic and whether or not you're going to have a lifestyle that involves dodging bullets at 5:45 in the morning is whether or not you were raised with your dad in the home. Saw some great charts this weekend. I was just looking some stuff up. And what you suspect is true. This is a fair country that is not governed or driven or systemically racist. And when black people are born in wedlock and raised by their biological parents, mother and father in the home, they have just as much of a record of success as their non-black counterparts. In fact, they actually have a better record for success than Hispanics and white kids who are born out of wedlock and not raised with their biological father in the home. So it seems like if you want this to stop, if you want the suffering of your neighbors, whether they're black or not, but it seems to be more prevalent for some of our black neighbors, if you want that to stop, the first thing you would do is go out there and start encouraging family formation. Stop at this whole promiscuity, going out and just making kids with just random people and having no interest in the upbringing of them. But that doesn't sell. That's not sexy. You can't put that on a foam core sign and go protest in front of an after-hours bar. Plus, you would have to admit that it's something wrong within one of your subcultures. Again, this isn't all black people. This isn't even most black people. This is just this little subset, the sort of thug life, ghetto culture. And there's those strains of it that are in the white community and Hispanic community. This isn't endemic to the black community. But this idea that you don't raise your own kids, that you go out and you party until 6 a.m. and you're a grown man. It's one thing to do it when you're 21 and in college. But if you're in your 30s and you're still doing this, you're missing the whole point of life. And black people, these people that are acting like your friends right now and saying, it's not you, it's these evil racist white people, or it's these evil greedy businessmen with these after-hours club, or it's these sorry school administrators, or it's these cops who are over-policing your neighborhoods. At some point, someone's going to have to tell you the truth. You have a broken culture that is creating people that shoot each other. You are your biggest problem. But the good news is that means you are your biggest solution. You don't need to take white people down a peg. You don't need to tax rich their fair share. You don't need to trade out the school administrators or institute DEI for the faculty. You need dads. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. More on this street murder epidemic coming up on The James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. We have an epidemic of mass shootings that are going unreported. I'm James Parker, News Talk 820 93.3 FM WBAP. And I don't mean it's going unreported like no one reports on it at all. But underreported is probably the better term for it. 800-288-9227. I know there's going to be a lot of people who have some hot opinions on this. But this is terrible. This breaks my heart because I am not indifferent to the suffering over here. I don't like hearing stories about how a grown man who was having to work a second job, being a bouncer at an after-hours club, was trying to break up a scuffle, got shot and killed. I don't like that. I don't like hearing the story about how a bunch of teens were at some party and there's like 100 of them and a bunch of them got shot up. I don't like the story about how the 12 people got shot last weekend in Oklahoma. And if we want to be grown-ups and not be scared little politically correct ninnies about this, we're going to have to admit some hard truths. There's a certain subset in our society that has a huge problem with gun violence above and beyond the rest of us. Not that we have zero problem with gun violence everywhere else, but it just, the numbers show. The news shows. Your own eyes see it. But because there's a racial element to this, a lot of people get scared and run off and they don't want to address it because it's easier to just let them kill themselves. It's better than being called a racist and risk having to lose your job. But I submit this has very little to do with racism and almost everything to do with dads. You know, we do a lot of questioning whenever there's one of these mass shootings. Who is this guy? How old is he? Where is he from? What race is he? What religion is he? What political party is he? Is he team red? Is he team blue? We're all trying to score points. And we're all trying to find out, well, has he ever donated to a Republican? Has he ever donated to a Democrat? Has he ever been part of an Antifa rally? Has he ever been in a Tea Party rally? But we don't ask the questions that I think we should be asking in situations like this. I think we should be asking, number one, does he have a dad? Where's his dad? Was he raised in the home with his dad? Another one, was he at church on Sunday? Why is that important, Parker? Well, let's go ahead and every time we do one of these stories, every media outlet, every newspaper, every TV station, every radio station, if we started not just talking about demographics and politics, if we started talking about who you are as a person, who your family is, and where your soul is headed, I think the answers will become amazingly clear. Out of all the shootings that happened in the last year here in North Texas, how many of them do you think came from someone who went to church on Sunday? Now, if we reported that, the anti-Christian narrative would fall apart. Christians aren't evil, self-centered, bigot, hateful people that are oppressing black people and gay people and whatever, trying to force their religions down everyone's throats. They would be the people who don't shoot, is what they would be. You would find out that, wow, we do have a bunch of problems with violence in the community, but at least it's not the Christians. Christians would get credit for it. Also, fathers would get credit for it. And that's not good for politicians. They need you scared. And they need to be able to sell you a solution. Because they can't sell you a dad. They can tell you, oh, well, we need a new program. Or we need a new community center. Or we need a new dog park or gun laws or something. But until we get to the two big issues here, until we actually start collecting real data, how many of the people that commit murder every year actually were raised by their biological father until age 18? Do you know what that number is? Because it's about, what are we at for, we're almost to 50-50 on kids being born out of wedlock these days. But in some communities, it's like 70%. It's more than 70% in the black community. I think it was 37% in the white community last time I checked. The overwhelming majority of people who are in prison right now don't have dads. Steven in Dallas, you're on News Talk 820 93.3 FM WBAP.
How you doing this evening?
Go ahead, Steven.
I'm calling in about the gun violence. So the dads in the home is part of it, but from my observation of it, you have these kids that what I call they idolize the wrong thing. So I grew up listening to love, togetherness, family. I'm 62, so I grew up with the old school music. These kids nowadays grow up listening to that. They grow up listening to how to take the drugs, what drugs to take, when to take them, what to do after.
Now, Stephen, I know where you're going, and I'm going to interrupt you because I already have the answer. I think you're not pointing at the disease. I think you're pointing at a symptom. You know, like if you have a cold, you have a runny nose. Well, you don't need to get rid of the runny nose. You need to get rid of the cold. The music is the runny nose. Because other demographics are exposed to the exact same music. In fact, when I last saw the ratings for the Beat here in town, most of their listening audience is white. It's not the people who listen to that music get all violent. It's the people who listen to that music and don't have dads who get violent. So the problem is the lack of dads. The problem is the lack of a competing value system like a father or a religion.
It's a combination.
Right, but I think the music stuff is more downstream, but I'm very partial to your experience because you're right, Stephen. When you were growing up, Al Green was singing, "I'm so in love with you." Who's singing that now? Like now you can go to a country station and they're talking about how the greatest thing in the world is getting married and raising your kids and watching them grow up and leave the house and be a dad. And there's not one of those songs in the rap world. Not one.
Not one.
Yeah.
Nope.
Well, I don't think that's the problem. I think that is a symptom that points to the problem. Of course, they're not going to have any songs about getting married and raising kids. 70% of them can't relate to that. 70% of it sounds like you're talking about Martians, Stephen.
Right.
Well, you fix the dad stuff. The music stuff will fix itself is kind of my conclusion on that. All right. Thank you very much for your call. Stephen in Dallas, kicking it off good. Got a couple other callers here. And look, I like the solutions-oriented approach you guys are already starting with. A couple of good callers coming up on this because when we see all the street violence that's going on, I'm tired of the misdiagnosis. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Yeah, Pantera. What are we going to do about gun violence in the streets? What are we going to do about teen violence in the streets? What are we going to do about after-hours club violence? What are we going to do about violence at Sunday Fun Days? Well, you know what? There's one thing that these all have in common. And I think we're focused on the wrong things. I think when there's a terror attack and we're focused on, well, we got to do something about the gun laws. No, I don't think it was the gun laws. I think it was the person holding the gun. We need to ask, why was that person created with the ability, thinking it's okay to do what he just did? And so whether it's the terror attack that you saw in Austin, whether it's the terror attack you saw at the ICE facilities here in Dallas and Alvarado and McAllen, or whether it's these parties that get out of hand, the Everman one, the one at the After Hours Club yesterday morning, the one in the Oklahoma Sunday Fun Day last week, they want to blame everything but the culture that created the people that are capable of such atrocities. And I think I found your first mistake. And it breaks my heart because I want this to be minimized. I want the suffering of my neighbors to be as less as possible, even if they're black. And so when they come away from this where, whoa, we got to do something with after hours clubs, I find this is such a disservice. Just terrible.
Morning, police are looking for the gunman they say shot and killed a security guard in Fort Worth.
As we hear from friends and family who are now pushing for permanent change. Let's get out to Chris Sadeghi this morning. This all happened early Sunday in the city's southeast side. And Chris, you're live from Fort Worth with us this morning. But with the message from his loved ones, police are still investigating here.
Yes, Dia, the death of this security guard and beloved community member has his friends and families not only mourning, but also urging the city to take a hard look at the after-hours business where he was working security. Police say that Dominique Coleman was working security at Club New Start and crossed the street to speak with someone. At that point, some kind of confrontation began, and police say someone began shooting, hitting Coleman and a woman. The woman will survive, but Coleman died on the scene. The shooter has not been found. This all happened at 5:45 in the morning Sunday at the club that stays open after hours, and friends of Coleman say the community wants the city to help them shut down the club because it brings unwanted people and unwanted activity into the area in those overnight hours. And community members we spoke with say they plan on protesting Club New Start. We did reach out to the club for comment. So far, we have not heard back.
I think everyone recognizes that these sort of violent acts happen more often in some neighborhoods than others. But do they ever ask themselves why? And if you're not getting the real answer, if you're listening to the media, you're listening to movies or Netflix or politicians, you think, well, he's probably evil old Whitey, or it's probably evil old Republicans with their stupid gun laws. But in the nice neighborhoods, they live by the same gun laws. In fact, when you leave the big city and you go out into the country, there's no gun laws whatsoever. And this doesn't really seem to happen across all socioeconomic or racial backgrounds, does it? It's still, the pattern holds true. So what do these communities that don't have a problem with violence do different than the ones that do have a problem with violence? And I'm stuck on two things. Number one, first and foremost, the statistics are overwhelming on dads. Number two, can we just give a mention to church? Let's just even in passing, can we mention church? Because the statistics on the fatherless homes is brutal. If you're raised in a fatherless home, you are 9 times more likely to drop out of high school, 10 times more likely to get addicted to drugs, 14 times more likely to commit rape, 20 times more likely to end up in prison, 32 times more likely to run away from home. Can we start there? Because you're told, look out for white rural rage. But this wasn't white. This wasn't rural. And it rarely is. And that is not your problem. Anybody telling you that's your problem is not your friend. Laura in Ovilla, you're on News Talk 820 93.3 FM WBAP.
Yes, I just wanted to throw something out there for you guys to think about because I don't think there's enough studies done on this. But I would love to know the statistics for how many of these people that are committing gun violence had at some point CPS walk into their home. They didn't have to be removed and put in foster care, but how many had CPS walk in their home? And the reason I say that is because I have fostered 30 babies, and 28 of those had moms or dads who were in the foster care system themselves. So this can't be a mistake. And so I think until we start looking at that for one thing, because the amount of kids in the areas where the gun violence is that are seen by CPS, even if they don't actually take them away and put them in a foster
Okay,
home.
Laura, but
Yeah.
you're dealing with some downstream symptoms of the disease as well. If we fix the nuclear family and we have moms and dads falling in love, getting married, and then having kids, and then staying together to raise the kids, we're not going to have this foster system issue. And
What I'm saying is it's generational. So we got to start
Agreed.
at some generation. Why don't we start at these little kids that are in foster care right now and say, where is the foster system broken? And start with them, because a lot of them I can see are going downhill.
Listen, Laura.
And their dads are in their life. They have their dads,
Okay.
but their dads didn't have dads, and their dads didn't have dads. You know what I mean? So you're going to have to stop it young to change the mindset, if that makes sense. Otherwise, they follow what their parents are already doing.
Yeah, no, I agree with that, but I don't think we stop it when it's young. I think when they're born, it's too late. These are problems that are solved
Yes.
before the child is conceived. You have fallen in love with the person that you're going to procreate with, preferably gotten married, and you're going to stick around. And it doesn't matter if you're missing brunch with your girls, or you're not going to the club with the guys, or so-and-so cheated, or so-and-so got fat, or so-and-so's boring now. You just change your cultural norms and start to stick it out. And if things don't improve, then you can go back to treating your women just like a receptacle of some sort. But I'm surprised the feminists aren't all over this as well. You guys on hold, hang on. We'll continue this conversation. Because the epidemic of gun violence, the pointing of fingers is driving me nuts, because you're making the situation worse by misdiagnosing it, people. 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker on News Talk 820 93.3 FM WBAP. More gun violence over the weekend has us talking about gun violence that happened over the weekend. I'm James Parker, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. You're not going to believe this, though. This didn't happen in white rural America. In fact, this didn't happen in rural America. This didn't happen in white America. This happened at an after-hours club in a part of Fort Worth that's not exactly the whitest. But that's not what MSNBC told you to look out for. They told you to look out for white rural rage.
Now, professor of political science at the University of Maryland, Baltimore County, Tom Schaller, and journalist and opinion writer Paul Waldman. Their new book, out tomorrow, is entitled White Rural Rage, The Threat to American Democracy. And Tom, we'll start with you. Why are white rural voters a threat to democracy at this time?
Just stop it. Let's go back to the phone. Hey, listen, taking down white people, putting them in their place, that's not going to stop this violence. Changing the gun laws to whatever you could imagine, it's not going to stop this violence. There's two things that are going to stop this violence: dads and Jesus. Prove me wrong. Angie in Commerce, you're on News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP.
Yes, I just wanted to say that I'm seeing more and more as time goes on with these kids, not just the boys, but also with the girls. Their standards are lower whenever it comes to guys. The men they're picking for their children, they're not standard guys. They're not hardworking men to leave an example for their kids.
They were
And
never
also, in
taught
turn,
to have standards. They're
Exactly.
the number one song in the country
Exactly.
like 5 years ago was WAP. Do you know what that stands for?
Yes.
Yeah, so
yes.
they're teaching their own daughters that you're just a receptacle for body fluids, and that's where your value lies.
Yes.
They've never heard anything else. They don't have any positive portrayals of family in their music. Most of their
And
Netflix
you
shows.
also have
Go ahead.
You also have grandparents raising these kids. I've seen it more and more in the town that I live in. Over and over. I mean, just being a part of Little League sports, if you sit back and look, the stands are empty with parents not being there.
That's a good one, the Little League sports. You see exactly who has dads, who shows up, and who don't you?
Yes.
I'll
and
tell you what's
also,
crazy.
They see the attitudes of their parents.
Well, out in Bug Tussle, we have the father-daughter dance. It's a beautiful thing, and it's fantastic. But for when my kids first started going to school, I was still living in New Orleans. And they had the father-daughter dance there, too. Completely different experience. Completely different
Yes.
experience. Oh, and it like I almost cried for these kids, because here we are. I think the first one I went to, my daughter's in like second grade, I think is when they started that or something. And I would say about a third of the girls there were there with a mom or a grandfather or someone who obviously wasn't their dad. And it breaks my heart. Like, we talk about this stuff on paper, but when you see a whole bunch of girls, like your dad couldn't be here, you probably don't even have a dad, and then you get all sad. And it's like these kids never had a chance. So the problems, once the kids are born, it's too late. The problem is or the solution here is what they told you at the Super Bowl. The only thing bigger than hate is love. Well, where are all you love people at on this one? Because my solution for this isn't, well, we've got to go after white people, or we've got to go after guns, or we've got to go after Camp Mystic or whatever. I'm saying, can you try falling in love? Do I sound like a real hate-filled bigot? Do I sound like a bad person? Do I sound like an evil, racist, Nazi Klansman when I'm saying fall in love? Start a family and raise your kids as a couple? Your solution is dads. Your solution is love. And you run around, love trumps hate. Really? Well, why don't you try it on yourself? Why don't you try it on your nuclear family? Why don't you try that with your own kids? Mike in Frisco. Hey, Mike, you're on News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP.
You know, the culture needs to change. You know, for 35 years, I'm a 50-year-old man. For 35 years, I've been hearing in the background nothing but, like you said, NWO.
You mean NWA?
Just whatever it is, bro. You know, it's something that, you know, when you watch people listen to that music, it's like they start getting upset and angry for nothing.
I don't know.
I don't understand why.
I grew up listening to NWA. I know quite a few of their songs by heart. I know half of the Chronic by heart. I'm not shooting anybody, and neither is most of the people that listen to that. And in fact, the ones of us that have fathers know that that's just a fun little piece of art, and it's not the value system by which you assign your entire life. That came from my mom and dad. That came from some of my other adult leaders at church. But they don't. If you don't have an alternative value system, absorbing that is the problem. But that's not where the problem started. The problem already existed. If NWA can convince you spraying bullets is cool, we had the problem before NWA came along.
That's the problem, man. You really need to wake up to that for sure. I used to be.
I don't think it is. Listen, this is,
I didn't have a father. I don't blame everything of my problem. I'm a successful man. I'm a successful 50-year-old man. I lived under a bridge for a long time. I've done a lot of things in my life, but I don't blame it on that. I don't blame it on not having a dad. I don't blame it on my mom leaving me. I don't blame it on that. I take care of what I need to take care of instead of blaming other people.
You're not a
for the
success.
problems that I have.
Okay, but you're not a success because you avoided NWA. You're an awesome person with intestinal fortitude that a lot of people have, but the ones that don't are going to suffer for it if they don't have a good family structure. But you sound like the same people that are blaming video games. Well, we have all these violent video games. That's where all these school shooters are coming from. Oh, yeah? Well, how many of these school shooters had dads? How many of these school shooters were in church on the Sunday before they started squeezing off rounds? It's not the music. It's not the video games. It's not the movie. These are all downstream cultural issues. Maybe it's exacerbated, or maybe it's fueled, or maybe that fits the anti-family narrative. But the problem is the anti-family narrative, not the art that it produces. Does that make sense? I'm not sure I explained myself well. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. All right, well, at least I tried. Coming up next on The James Show, updates on the water park Muslims. There was an interview with the lady who put the event together. Sarah Gonzalez blew her out of the water, and then her husband had a hissy fit online over the weekend. You'll hear it next on News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Well, we're talking about a clash of cultures here in North Texas. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 93.3 FM WBAP. Welcome to the big show. The clash of cultures is, are two stories that we're running with right now. Number one is the issue that's going on with the shootings. We've seen a lot of these mass shootings, and in some instances, mass shootings are the most important story in the world. In fact, we've got to hear about some mass shootings all day, every day, and get reminders every year on their anniversary, whether it's a Uvalde or a Parkland or an Aurora or a Columbine. But like the mass shootings that just happened this weekend, you're not going to get updates on those. Why? Because it doesn't fit the narrative. And these are the shootings that happen far more often than the ones that are highlighted, and I think it's a horrible disservice, especially to the our black neighbors and the people who it's happening to a greater rate. The other clash of cultures is with the water park Muslims. And look, you want to go splash around in a burkini, that's fine. You want to have a religiously segregated event on public property and then call me a bigot when I call it out? Wow, that's another problem. And it's not that they're different. It's not that they have a different religion. I am not a xenophobe. I am not closed-minded. It's all the evidence that we have of everywhere else on the planet where that ideology has become the norm and the majority. Everyone else's rights diminish. That's what I'm trying to stop. And if I can't religiously discriminate against you, I would be a chump if I allowed you to religiously discriminate against me. So we're just having a clash of cultures here. And some people are pretending like this is racism. It's not racism for either situation. No, it's not sexism, bigotry, Islamophobia, xenophobia. It's not a phobia. It's a very real, sober recognition of patterns that come with quite nice solutions. The solution is love. The solution is fall in love, get married, have kids, raise your kids, mother and father together in the home. Be the Brady Bunch, damn it. But no, I'm called a hater for that. Makes no sense. And it's not doing anybody any good. In fact, it's getting people killed. Jeff in Denton, you're on News Talk 820 93.3 FM WBAP.
James, you're spot on, my friend. It is a culture issue, and I applaud for having the courage to come out and discuss this publicly, because people dance around it. They won't talk about it. If you do, you're a racist, you're a bigot, you're white privilege. It certainly is a culture issue, especially in the black community. They have no role models. They have no. They don't have that figure in their lives. And look at their role models, the athletes, the musicians. It's absolutely spot on, 100%. You hit it right on the head.
It's just dads. It's dads and religion, and I think those kind of go hand in hand.
Yeah.
But we don't even take the right information when we're trying to figure out what the problem is. For all of these shootings, if the person on the news told you what their religion is, or if they were religious, or if whether or not they had a dad, how stark would the information be for the rest of us? The problem is people who don't have dads and people who don't go to church.
And it wouldn't make news. It's not a headline.
You know what? And that's the other sad part of it. You're absolutely right, Jeff, because at the very beginning, I kind of bristle when people are like, you're brave for saying this, because I don't feel like I'm really risking anything. But I do have to have a bunch of HR meetings. I do get a whole lot of complaints. I do get advertisers sometimes pulling money, which gets me in a lot of trouble. And you know what? Maybe there's a little aspect of bravery, because if I came out and told the exact same lies that everyone else told, I wouldn't get any trouble. If I just went out and blamed the guns or blamed white people or blamed the after hours club, there would be no complaints to HR. They'd be like, good, lie to me more. I don't care if my own brethren are dying in the street. And I know you consider them your brethren. I consider them my brethren too. If you are born and raised in Texas, I don't care if you're black. You're my brother. You're my neighbor. I went to school with whites, blacks, and Mexicans. No, we didn't have a total amount of diversity out in Bucktussle. But you're not some foreign entity. You belong here. Unlike, the water park Muslims who are bringing in a foreign ideology and worldview that completely clashes with Western civilization. You are a subset within Western civilization that I think could be easily helped if people would stop lying to you. And the update on the water park Muslim story is adorable, because the story was originally broken by Sarah Gonzalez. You see her on the Blaze or Texas Scorecard, and she was the one who found this flyer. And so everyone else that is reporting off of this is basing it off the foundation that she gave us. But then she did the awesome follow-up where she interviewed the woman who put the event together last Thursday. And I played one clip of that on Friday's show. Coming up next, I'm going to play another clip on the show, or two more clips on the show. And then I will play you her husband's response, because she got humiliated by Sarah Gonzalez on Thursday, and he had a hissy fit over the weekend. It's all coming up next on The James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. You know, one of the big differences between being a kid and being an adult is when you're a kid and you get an injury, you'll heal yourself, and you'll heal pretty fast, and it will last. However, in adulthood, if you get an injury, if you mess up your knee, or if you tweak your back, or if you twist your ankle, you may think you'll never get over it. You'll never be completely healed. James Parker here for QC Kinetics. Well, QC Kinetics could be that bridge to actually getting rid of the problem and not just living with an injury for perpetuity. You know, maybe that's not your only option, is to be in pain or die. A lot of people have gone to QC Kinetics. They get the free consultation. They find out what their pain is, what's causing it. They take a couple scans, ask a couple of questions, do a couple little medical things, and then they figure out what treatment could work for you if one of them does. I mean, hey, maybe if it's bad enough, they'll say you do need surgery, there's nothing we can do for you. But it doesn't cost you anything to find out. And if it does work for you, you're going to like a lot of the same things I liked about it, because I'm going through it right now. There's no downtime. There's no surgery. No one cuts you open. There's no stitches. There's no that no one puts you under. You don't have to take your clothes off. You don't have to put on a gown. And you're out in 30 minutes, and you can just go on about your day. No one even has to know you're doing it. You can just go on and go to the store and do what you were going to do. So no downtime. Get rid of your pain. It starts by calling 972-972-8610. Call QC Kinetics now, 972-972-8610. Well, we have a response from the Water Park Muslims about their event being canceled. I'm James Parker, News Talk 820 93.3 FM, WBAP. Your home for Markley, Van Camp, and Robbins. But in the saga of the Water Park Muslims, we have watched this sort of progress where, if you're not familiar with the story, Grand Prairie, for some ungodly, dumb reason, has a city-owned water park, and Sarah Gonzalez from The Blaze found a flyer for an Eid celebration, EID. It's in June, and there was going to be a 5-hour span where the water park was rented out by some private entity for Muslims only, and they had Muslims only 3 different times on the flyer. So clearly there was religious discrimination. It got pointed out. They changed the flyer to say everyone's included, and now they're acting like, what? We weren't excluding people. Stop lying to our face for 5 seconds. And so the governor finally got wind of this, and the governor said, look, Grand Prairie, you can do what you want, but if you do this, we're going to pull about $500,000 in funding for, I don't know, streets or dog parks or bike lanes or something stupid. And so they caved. And then the organizer of the event went on Sarah Gonzalez's show on The Blaze. Sarah Gonzalez, who originally discovered the flyer, she did absolutely no research because she walked in this interview thinking this was going to be a cheerful, happy, allied interview, and it definitely was not. But you can tell she has no idea who Sarah Gonzalez is. She has no idea Sarah Gonzalez is the one who got this thing stopped in the first place. She just agreed because I guess she's so used to sycophantic media fawning all over her. So just check out this first minute here from the interview, and she has no clue what's coming.
You did have the Muslims only on the original flyer, and then you changed it and updated it on the site to read modest dress only, correct?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. So
Correct.
why did you make that change?
So I made that change because this flyer, when it was originally created, and just to say, this event, this is the third year of the event, right? But it's the second year that it was a private event. And so last year, the flyer also said the celebration is for the Eid. It's a Muslim only event. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, there was no issue last year. The website was reviewed, the flyer was reviewed by the water park, and there was absolutely no issue, right? And so the show went on. It was wonderful. We had about 600 attendees. Everything was great. So this year, the water park contacted me like earlier on to say, we're ready to do another Muslim-only event. Like it was so great last year. Let's do it again.
Is that believable? That can't be true. All right, let's assume it is true. So your excuse for wanting to get away with it this year is, well, we cheated and discriminated against people based on their religion last year too. And at the very beginning, she admitted, look, the first 5 seconds were perfect. I'm so glad this is what Sarah started with. It said Muslims only on the flyer, right? Right.
You did have the Muslims only on the original flyer, and then you changed it and updated it on the site to read modest dress only, correct?
Absolutely.
See, so she doesn't know she's admitting to a crime. Sarah Gonzalez just tricked her into admitting that she was religiously discriminating against non-Muslims. She has no idea. She's dumb. This is not an intelligent person. Her husband's not intelligent either. Wait till you hear him in just a second. But in that statement right there, oh, yeah, so this year they called me. After they reviewed the flyer, they reviewed it on the website, they reviewed the event, and they approved it. And then they called you back next year. Hey, can we discriminate against Christians and non-Muslims again? This will be great. I don't believe that. If it is true, whoever called her to have the event again, if they were aware this was a Muslims-only event and they didn't try to correct that, they need to be fired immediately. If not sued or charged with a crime or whatever. I mean, the Civil Rights Act of 1964 is something that isn't like supposed to be a selective outrage thing. Remember when they were all upset about, oh, they're gutting the Voting Rights Act of 1965 with this redistricting stuff or with this Supreme Court ruling on race? Okay, what about the Civil Rights Act of 1964? Oh, no, that's okay? You're not concerned about that? So it's selective outrage on civil rights enforcement. Gotcha. And if the selective outrage is always against me, but always in favor of the narrative, you're not really concerned about civil rights. It's a bludgeon you're using against your political opponents. You're exploiting the suffering of our black neighbors to score political points. Sarah Gonzalez made a whites-only comparison, and I think it just flew right over this lady's head. I'm not sure if she is intellectually capable of keeping up with average conversations.
Yeah, I mean, because it does read like you were trying to exclude non-Muslims. And I just wonder, I know that you feel like you were wronged in this, but I just wonder if you feel like it would be fair for, say, a private group to rent out a publicly funded water park and put on, their posters, "This is for whites only." I'm struggling to see the difference in that.
Yeah, thanks for asking that. Well, so there's a couple of things there, right?
Don't worry, she doesn't answer the question. She just talks about something else. So she got embarrassed. She ended up doing some weird pausing things on the interview and walking off. And then her husband spoke out over the weekend. This was him. He goes by Imam of the People on TikTok.
The governor of Texas is attacking my family, and I'm sick of it. 2 days ago, Greg Abbott forced the city of Grand Prairie to cancel our Eid event at Epic Waters. For the past 2 years, my wife and I rented out the entire park so Muslim families could celebrate Eid in a modest environment. Our third annual event. Then the Islamophobes got a hold of a private flyer and twisted it into something it was never meant to be. We never banned other religions. We even changed the wording to modest dress only to make that crystal clear. But Greg Abbott, he don't care about facts. He fueled the flames of hatred, empowered these hate-filled politicians, and turned my family into a political target. Now we're receiving death threats and harassments because of it. But hear me clearly, I'm not gonna back down. I need everybody to stand with me. Pass this on, share this video, follow me for daily updates. I'm taking these bigoted, hate-filled politicians down.
Who is he even talking to? Like, everything he said there, almost every sentence that he said was based on a lie. Like in Star Wars, remember when Luke Skywalker told Kylo Ren, "Everything you just said is wrong."
Amazing. Every word of what you just said was wrong.
It's the same thing there. Yeah, they're attacking my family. No one's attacking your family. I didn't even know you had a family. I didn't know if she was married. I didn't know if it was a she. I don't care who started the event, if they have a family or not. I don't care if they're single. It has nothing to do with anybody. No one's attacking your family, liar. And then what was the rest of that?
The governor of Texas is attacking my family.
The governor of Texas is not attacking your family. Governor of Texas said nothing about your family.
And I'm sick of it. 2 days ago, Greg Abbott forced the city of Grand Prairie to cancel our Eid.
That's a lie, too. He didn't force the city of Grand Prairie to close anything. He just said, "I don't like that, and if you do that, I'm going to withhold some traffic funding." The city of Grand Prairie could have gone through with it. Y'all could have donated the missing money from your mosque fund or Epic City or Muslim Brotherhood or the Holy Land Foundation or some of your friends in Hamas. They could have donated the money to Grand Prairie. You still could have had the event. They can't stop lying to your face. You're not winning anybody over by excluding people based on their religion and then lying to our face about it repeatedly. Yeah, we're going to get all these racist, Islamic phobic politicians. No, you're not. You're not going to do anything. Now go oppress women, hate dogs, and hate bacon, and leave us alone. Coming up next on The James Show, we've got to play Dead or Alive. Today's episode of Dead or Alive, the category is Christine. So anybody named Christy, Christine, Christina, something like that. And the tickets are 2 tickets to see Motley Crue Carnival of Sins tour. They're going to be at Dos Equis Pavilion in September. If you want to win Motley Crue tickets, call in right now. 800-288-9227. Dead or Alive next on The James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM WBAP. Hey, you're just in time for Dead or Alive. I'm James Parker, News Talk 820 93.3 FM, WBAP. Welcome to the big show. This is the easier of the game shows. This is going to be an awesome one today because we have some awesome prizes here. With that, Mr. Jovi, get us kicked off. Thank you, Mr. Jovi. Welcome to Dead or Alive. I know, good to see you too. We all excited for a Monday. I'm pretty excited too. Hey, if you're new to the show, Dead or Alive is the James Show game show where I'm going to list 10 celebrities. You have to guess if they're dead or alive. That's it. It's like a 50-50 shot on all of them. James, that sounds easy. It is easy. I don't want them to all be hard. Today, we're giving away tickets to see Motley Crue. They're on their Carnival of Sins tour, coming to Dos Equis Pavilion on September 10th. For the rest of us, get tickets now at livenation.com. But I got to give away some tickets now. Let's start with, oh my God, Becky in Fort Worth. You're first up on Dead or Alive, like you've never heard that before. You ready?
Right. Yes, I'm ready.
I bet you really love the first 5 seconds of Baby Got Back, don't you?
Yeah.
All right, Becky. Today's category is Christina. So someone named Christina or Christine or Christy, that's going to be all of our celebrities today. Are you pretty confident in your Christina knowledge?
Oh, I don't know. We'll see.
All right, well, we'll see. We'll see if you screw it up. We'll start easy.
Okay.
Becky, is Christina Aguilera dead or alive?
Alive.
See, that's easy. What are you worried about? The mystery author Agatha Christie, is she dead or alive?
Dead.
Yeah, she died before I was born. Just keeping you on your toes there, Becky.
Okay.
Christina Ricci, she was Wednesday Addams, and God, I love her. Dead or alive?
Alive.
Christina Hendricks, who was in both Mad Men and Good Girls. They're almost like opposite names for the same show. Is she dead or alive?
Alive.
Yes, and we're a big fan of Christina Hendricks on the James Show. That's Miss Parker's celebrity twin. Out of all the celebrities, that's the one she looks like more than anyone else. So, the next one, Christina Applegate, dead or alive?
Alive.
54.
And I know she's sick, but she's alive.
Very sick, and that makes me sad because she's only 54.
Yeah.
Christina Pickles, she was in Saint Elsewhere and Legends of the Fall. Is she dead or alive?
Oh, I'll say alive.
No, why do you put it like that? Because Saint Elsewhere was a long time ago?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you're lucky she's 91, so you're still good.
Oh, good. Yay.
All right, Christina Perry, she sings Jar of Hearts. Dead or alive?
Alive.
She's only 39 years old. Christine McVie from Fleetwood Mac, dead or alive?
Oh, she's dead. She was my favorite.
You know, Becky, you're ticking off a lot of people waiting on hold who want you to miss one. All right, Becky in Fort Worth, you only got two more. Christy Brinkley, dead or alive?
She's alive. I saw her last night.
You saw her last night?
I saw her last night, I think on The Tonight Show.
Well, I mean, I assume it was on TV.
With her daughter.
Okay.
Yeah, it was on TV, yes.
Well, that takes all the fun out of that one. And finally, in the Christie category, Chris Christie, the former New Jersey governor, dead or alive?
He's alive.
Look at that, a perfect scorecard. Yeah. Oh, I hit the wrong button. I got to do the ending one. There we go. All right, well, congratulations, Becky in Fort Worth. You have won 2 tickets to see Motley Crue, Carnival of Sins Tour, Dos Equis Pavilion, September 10th. For the rest of us, we got to get tickets and information at livenation.com. But Becky, are you going to take your husband? Is he a big Motley Crue fan, or are you the big Motley Crue fan?
Yes. You know what? We both are. And I don't think we ever saw, I know I never saw them, I don't think, back in the day. I might have, but I don't remember because I'm pretty old.
Oh, man. So I have one Motley Crue story.
I'm excited. Yeah.
I saw
Okay,
Vince Neil. We had like a radio station Christmas party, and back then radio stations used to spend money on Christmas parties. And Vince Neil was going to come do the concert for us at our Christmas party. I'm like, this is going to be awesome. He's doing a station event with Vince Neil. We're going to party. We're going to get some chicks. And this is when I was like 25 and single. Man, he comes to town with his beautiful wife, and it turns out he is 100% completely sober. And so we just sat around, and he had like an O'Doul's, and we talked about like economics and boring stuff. And there was no rock and roll or drugs or sex or anything. It was so boring.
Oh,
But yeah, hopefully.
that's terrible. But did you get a picture though?
No, this was before I had a cell phone. I was kind of
Before the cell phone.
yeah, it's like 2003, and I couldn't afford one because I was a bum who was just starting out in radio. Becky, I'm putting you on hold. Good Garrett's going to get your information. We will email you the tickets to see Motley Crue. The rest of you go to livenation.com. Coming up next, you're going to hear a guy from M. Snow say the SCOTUS redistricting ruling was the worst civil rights ruling in Supreme Court history going back to Dred Scott. I'll beg to differ next on The James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Well, you want to hear one of the greatest hyperboles of the day? I'm James Parker, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. You know, it's hard to make fun of hyperbole coming from Team Blue when President Trump is the titular head of Team Red, because he is the king of hyperbole. But it's never as mean-spirited as what you're about to hear. A couple of clips here. Here's Eugene Daniels. He is hosting a show this weekend on M. Snow, and I don't watch M. Snow very much, but this clip was making the rounds. I'm going to play you his setup, and then his guest is Representative Morell, a Democrat guy, congressman, who's going to make the case that this is the most racist Supreme Court decision ever. But Eugene Daniels will give you the setup here.
Congressman, you talked about changing the rules and changing the game. Republicans have also done that when it comes to mid-decade redistricting. This all started when President Trump told Texas lawmakers to find him 5 seats. They did that and set off this.
Hang on, look, I hate this because it's already starting off with a lie. This didn't kick off with mid-decade redistricting from Texas. Texas tried to do their redistricting after the 2020 census, just like you're supposed to do. But the Biden court kept blocking it until Texas gave up. And then when Trump got in, they took that same map, they reran it through the system, and they got it passed. So the only reason this happened in the middle of the decade isn't because Texas was trying to cheat. It's because the Biden administration had blocked them for 4 years. That being said, let's go ahead.
Congressman, you talked about changing the rules and changing the game. Republicans have also done that when it comes to mid-decade redistricting. This all started when President Trump told Texas lawmakers to find him 5 seats. They did that and set off this entire back and forth. The Virginia Supreme Court struck down a voter-backed redistricting plan that is both a blow to Democrats and kind of the process that we are operating within. When you, as someone who is in New York, it's reported that you were involved in the kind of pushing the redistricting effort there. When you're looking at how Democrats and Republicans have been operating, that Republicans have been doing this over and over again, that even just this week you had Louisiana pause its primaries so that they could change the game and change the seats, as you said. When you look at that, what should Democrats be doing next, especially in New York?
God, let's break out Luke Skywalker again.
Amazing. Every word of what you just said was wrong.
That being said, I think you're going to be even more floored by Representative Morell's response to that. This is a congressman.
Louisiana's already in the middle of their voting. They've already had the primary. They're in their runoff stage, and the governor unilaterally said, no, we're going to follow the Supreme Court, which, by the way, made the worst decision since the Taney Court came up with Dred Scott. I mean, the Roberts Court will go down in history as one of the most racist courts in American history, and it is disgraceful. That's being respected, but the will of voters of Virginia and in California are being challenged by Republicans. It's really unbelievable.
Boy, you should be run out of town for saying this is the worst decision since Dred Scott. Do you realize what terrible decisions have been brought up since Dred Scott? First, the framing from Eugene Daniels, totally fake. Well, this is so the Republicans don't have to have any accountability. No, under the previous regime, before the Supreme Court decision, Massachusetts was allowed to draw their congressional districts in a way that they have 100% Democrat representatives, even though 40% of their voters are Republicans. So there's absolutely zero representation. So there's actual disenfranchisement of voters in the entirety of that state. However, in Louisiana, they've always had the ability to do what Massachusetts did with their demographics, but the federal government would stop them. Why? Because they would make the case that, well, without one district that is majority black or overwhelmingly majority black, they are disenfranchised. If they don't have someone that looks like them, you're disenfranchising those voters. And so they were able to force the Republicans from not gerrymandering in some states while not having to force the Democrats to stop gerrymandering in blue states. So it was a double standard that we've lived at based off this silly racial discrimination that was totally to benefit the one party that has abused them through the entirety of our history. But let's just run through some of these other cases Dred Scott, which happened in the 1850s, that was really worse than the decision in 1944, Korematsu versus the United States, that upheld the constitutionality of forced internment camps for Japanese Americans during World War II. Plessy versus Ferguson wasn't worse. The separate but equal doctrine that pushed everyone in the Jim Crow South to Democrat forced racial segregated bathroom facilities. What about Buck versus Bell? You know what Buck versus Bell was? It was a Supreme Court decision just in the last century that upheld a Virginia law that allowed for the compulsory sterilization of undesirables, individuals deemed unfit by the state. Isn't that a little scarier than we may have one fewer black congressman coming out of Louisiana? Isn't that more of an injustice than Louisiana is going to be allowed to gerrymander just like Massachusetts is? I mean, is it even an injustice at all that Louisiana will now be allowed to gerrymander? Louisiana and Texas and Alabama and Georgia will be able to gerrymander just as much as Massachusetts and Connecticut and Rhode Island and Vermont and Maine. All states that have 0 congressional representatives from Team Red. And they're all about 40% Team Red voters. So all this is doing is leveling the playing field, not allowing Democrats to exploit race to draw favorable maps. And this is somehow worse than compulsory sterilization, separate versus equal, Japanese internment camps. I mean, it gets worse than that. But I'm out of time. 800-288-9227. 800... Why am I even saying that? The show's over. Stick around. Coming up next, Mark Levin. What I meant to say is go check out the James Show podcast. As soon as I get done here, I'm going to go make a promo, and then I'll get editing that together. It should be ready in a couple hours for you. So if you didn't get to hear the whole show, you can make up for it there. I'm James Parker. Thank you very much for listening to the James Show on News Talk 820, 93.3 FM WBAP.